I will say hello and welcome
Okay.
to another episode of All About Balance. And
Yeah.
today is a serious bucket list moment for me personally. Like I was thinking about this today. I have like a notepad file on my computer, and
Yeah.
on that file there is a number of names of people that I never thought I'd be able to get on the podcast, and one of them is yourself.
What?
100%.
What?
So I'll
All right.
introduce you formally,
Yeah.
ladies and
I'll
gentlemen.
be equally as flustered. Sorry.
Today I am joined by none other than the greatest caption artist on Instagram. It's the one and only Tanya, aka SuperSaiyanMagicalGirl. Hello, Tanya. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
And
Thank you.
that
I'm
is
good.
quite a lofty title.
I don't know if it is, to be honest. Like, I'm not sure there's anyone on Instagram that's able to put as much dark humor into MMA posts.
Yeah, I guess it is kind of dark. I've honestly, for the first few months, I didn't think anyone read the captions. So I was just like, I'm going to put whatever spews out of my weird brain. And then eventually I was like, oh, Christ, people are actually paying attention to what I'm writing.
100%.
That didn't stop me. I still act like no one's reading these things.
No way. I mean, like, from an avid watcher's perspective, an avid follower's perspective, like obviously the photography itself is incredible, but there's always, what's so brilliant about those is it's MMA in a lot of ways is a very serious sport, right? Like it's a very serious thing to get into the cage and throw bones at another person until somebody potentially falls over. And we were talking off air about Robbie and Rory and the paintings that you've recently done, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but people forget that these are just real people, right? Real dudes and women that go to the gym and train with their mates, and the captions that you put together, they really highlight that in a brilliant way. So I think it's just a beautiful dichotomy. So yeah, people definitely read your comments for sure. Read your captions.
Yeah, it's amazing to think about. And I guess like I don't really view, like I appreciate MMA for the incredible martial art that it is.
Of course.
It's because I'm at the gym at Tristar like day in, day out, and just getting to know these people. I kind of forget that they're incredible fighters. So I kind of caption like they're friends, they're just people I know that I see every day. And I guess it's part of my weird way of handling like how intense and how violent MMA is, and seeing the other side. Like it is throwing bones, but I'm also, the way I phrase it is you're fighting another person in your underwear, which is kind of like, it makes it a little more lighthearted in my weird brain.
But and I think that's the thing, right? Like that's the caption 101. You're taking an extremely serious situation, and you're like, I think in another life you could easily be a comic,
It seems so. I've got like the weird tragic childhood, and then like the need for like attention, or saying like the lack of filter is what I gather is like a very comic kind of thing.
Yeah, I love it. Like I think if I can make people laugh, but only when I have something to poke at. Like I'm not just funny, whereas there are people that are just funny, and I think you're just funny. Do you know what I mean? There are people, like you say, there's people that are just, like nobody sits there. It's you that comes up with those captions. It's you that comes up with the one-liners. It's you that has the...
Yeah, it just, I don't know, these weird things pop into my head and then like make weird associations. Like there's one where I think like Arnold Allen is like teeping someone, and I'm just like Wolf of Wall Street scene where Margot Robbie is just like mushing her shoe against Leo's face, and I'm like, that's it.
And that's like, there's something about artistry, right, that kind of flows in various channels, and there's something about the photographer, artist, comic in you that is able to look at Arnold Allen, who's, for a 145-pound man, is an absolute giant, right?
He's jacked.
Teeping some dude, and you're like, that dude looks like Margot Robbie.
Yeah, like he is, he's got the legs for it.
He does have the legs for it. I'm kind of blown away by what you said just before, and it's only just kind of rattling around in my brain, is that you're in Tristar day in, day out, and for me, I kind of forget that people do go there day in, day out, and like for people it's
Yeah,
just the gym. That's so
yeah,
strange.
it is bizarre. Like when I first started going to TriStar, I followed some Pride in K1 when I was
Mhm.
younger, but
Mhm.
I didn't really keep up on UFC. So these guys at the gym, I didn't even know who they were,
Mm.
and I'm just like training, and then I'd see them on the fights. I'm like, oh, it's ear guy. Well, there's a lot of ear guys there, but it's like
Yeah, sure.
it's XYZ, and I'm like, oh, that's who they were, and it is just bizarre when I'm just walking in the gym and I'm like, oh, Rory's teaching a class or George is teaching, and not to name drop, but I can't help but name drop,
Of
and
course. Yeah, of course. I
like,
mean, yeah, when I went to my first class at TriStar, I turned up and on the mat was Stevie Ray and Andrew Sanchez and this guy, and I sort of sat in the corner like I shouldn't be here. Like this is not for me. Like I should not be. Me in the same room as these people is weird.
it is really hard to have a lazy workout day when you see those guys working and you're like, okay, fine, I'll pick up the pace a little bit.
Yeah. I mean,
But
how did you get to TriStar?
so it's kind of hilarious, and hopefully my mom doesn't hear about this, but I moved to Montreal 2011, and then needed a job, and someone was like, hey, how do you feel like working in a porn company? And my smart ass answer was, what position?
See, comic. It's
I don't
fucking
know, just
brilliant.
no filter. But so anyways, I go there, and then I find out that they have this discount to train at TriStar. It's really that kind of like banal. It's just like, oh, there's a discount at the local gym nearby. And so I went, and I knew of it, and I knew GSP was there, but I just was like, 25% off. Let's go. Just do like lunchtime workouts before I go back to my retouching photos and the porn thing. By the way, I don't do the other side of the camera.
Sure, got it.
Yeah. But yeah, just gym membership at my work discount thing.
And it sounds like such an anti for us thing to be in affiliation with a fucking porn company.
Yeah, but UFC was in affiliation with Fleshlight, or not Flesh.
Yeah, I
Was it
mean,
Fleshlight, or
I
like
think so. Yeah, I
there's a
think so.
porn.
It's one of those. Yeah.
One of those.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if we're looking at from a philosophical and ethical standpoint, the UFC and for us, like just other spectrums of each other, right?
Completely. I wonder what Faraz's thoughts on it. He was just probably amused. He's like, yeah, sure, sounds good.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't know. That man is a bit of an enigma in himself. I only ever had the whole TriStar story is strange how I got there. I actually on a podcast.
Yeah, how did you get there?
That's a good question. So I actually recounted this on the podcast last week, but essentially he tweeted saying he was doing a seminar in the UK, an upcoming seminar in the UK, and I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, I need to get to that seminar. So it turns out it was at the other end of England. It was in 2 days. I messaged the chat, like the gym, and I was like, look, you named the price, like I need to be at this seminar. So thankfully they gave me a shot. They gave me a spot on this seminar. I went and I took a box of cookies that I'd baked.
Right? I heard someone from that gym was like, this amazing like legend of a human being, Harry, shows up to the seminar. Yeah.
So I gave for us one of these boxes of cookies, right?
Aww.
And we went out to eat afterwards, and we spoke for like, I don't know, 4 hours or something. Not just me and him, obviously, like there was about 7 of us. And I said to him, like, would it be okay if I came to come and train at TriStar, right? And he was like, absolutely. So I booked for a month and I came over, and when I walked in, he was coaching the MMA guys in the red cage. Like the sky cage,
the red room.
Yeah, the red room, yeah. And immediately he like came over and he said hello and he spoke my name, and I was like, oh my God, this is absolutely insane. But I've never been Kimura'd more times in my entire jiu-jitsu career than I was at TriStar.
Yeah. I think there was a time when they were really Kimura happy, and I also, I bore the brunt, and I suffered, and footlocks, I hear, are a big thing at TriStar. I was there when like Taza and Ethan were just discovering that you could mangle people's feet, so I was one of the guinea pigs.
I mean, that's the other thing is like, not forget the MMA guys for a second. Is the guys that have come out of there from just a straight jiu-jitsu perspective, Tarzan,
Yeah.
Ethan, his little brother, Olivier Leclerc, you know,
Yeah.
like, and Donnie Graham as he is on
Oh,
Instagram.
Donnie. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Call him Goland.
yeah, there's so many guys, and I don't know. It's just a very special place to be, right?
Yeah. It is like, I realize that I'm kind of it's an embarrassment of riches. You know, I'm just kind of like strolling, like, you know, Danaher's shows up one day, or like my second class ever of jujitsu was taught by Murillo Santana, which was the most confusing thing ever. Yeah. He was like, it was literally my second class. I came from like a Muay Thai background, and he's like, and then you do an omoplata. And I'm like, what's an omoplata? What are the, and it's like a 8-move sequence because he's Murillo frickin' Santana. So,
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, it does break my head sometimes that there are some like heavy hitters that just show up.
Well, I'm going to offer this to you because I don't know whether anyone's ever said this to you, but I'm going to just in case.
Sure.
Like, I mean, look, for us would be famous because he's for us, right? GSP would be famous because he's GSP and whatever. But I think that Tristar as a gym is a massive proponent of the fame that Tristar has is you. And now let me explain why I think that. Right?
Sorry, I've got some allergies, so my nose is.
That's fine. Sneeze away. It's fine.
This rampant Coke habit.
That's absolutely fine as well. It's fine. Look, if there's in the UK, there's not many gyms that have a professional photographer, right? And in an age of social media, and in an age where there's a bounty of gyms, right? Think in Montreal, there's at least 5, 10, 15 gyms you can go and train at, right?
Right.
How many of them have an Instagram account with plus 10K followers and a professional photographer?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't really, it kind of breaks my head and just makes me start gibbering like an idiot when I think of being an actual proponent to the notoriety of such an incredible gym. But like, I guess, yeah, it happened as a fortuitous thing. And there was a photographer before. His name was Jesse, and he did some work, and he does great work. And then I guess he, you know, had his life stuff and went on his thing. And then it happened that, yeah, I just showed up. I got a camera for Christmas. That was genuinely the whole thing. And I was just like, I'm going to test out this camera at my training. You know, I'm just, you know, after training, I just test out my camera. So to think of myself as a professional photographer is a weird kind of thing. And
I mean, it's not weird at all because, like, you know Rolling Shutter, right? Like, you've spoken to Rolling Shutter before. He's one of my closest friends, right? Like, and both of us sit and pore over your photos, right? There are genuine people, you know, like we spoke, and it was one of the things, you know, when I came to Tristar, it was such an honor to have you point the camera at me. Right? It was such an unbelievable honor, and I know I sound like Bernardo Faria here, right? But it was a huge honor. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you know, big honor today.
It was a big honor for me. It really, really was. I don't know. There's something heralded about that place, and I think that Tristar would not be the same without you taking photos. I really, really don't think so.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been a wonderful kind of like symbiotic relationship that I've had with the fighters. And like I said, I was just testing my camera out and just goofing off with my friends. And I think that's part of my success, if I want to call it. It's just me goofing off with my friends.
Look, I couldn't agree more. I think when something comes, it seems natural, you know, like it feels natural.
Yeah.
And there's something to that, I think.
Yeah. And there's, like, I've done some photography in high school and a little bit in art school. And what really, like, the things that attracted me were more the candid moments. And that's really what I like to capture. I kind of naturally gravitated towards capturing those in-between moments. I mean, yes, there's like really cool, incredible things the fighters do. And I, you know, get those. Those are like the safety shots, as it were. But then it's the, you know, they're tired, or they're just goofing off with their friends, or they're thinking, you know, those private moments are, I don't know, really what drew me to this whole thing.
Yeah, and you can see, because they're the moments that they forget the camera's on them, and they're the
Yeah.
best time to capture them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sorry, go on.
Oh, no, they honestly don't even notice me anymore. They've gotten so used to this little gnat buzzing around.
But this is my point, right?
Yeah.
You are part of the fabric of Tristar, whether you want to believe it or not, whether it fills your head with, ultimate dread or not. That's up to you. But the fabric of Tristar contains Super Saiyan Magic Girl, because
She's
there's think about and we can have controversial opinions on Conor McGregor as a man, but he hired a professional photographer.
The work is amazing, and it shows.
Like, why did he do it? Because documenting things is so important.
Yeah.
In steps in one of the best documentation people in the world, and that's you, right? You walk into Tristar with a camera, and all of a sudden, as you say, the candid moments. Like, Arnold's not going to remember teeping someone in the face in 2 weeks, right? He's training for a fucking monster fight with Josh Emmett, but in 15 years, when he scrolls through his photos that you've taken, he's like, oh my god, I remember that. That was amazing.
Yeah, that is a really monumental thing that I keep in mind, is like why it was no problem for me to take your photo and things like that, because these are special moments. Like, they mean a lot to people, even if they aren't aware of it at the time. Like, when people have retired or gone on to a different gym or things, it's nice to just have those memories. That's what photography is. It's just like bottling memories and experiences.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And there's and I think there's wizardry to that. There's innate beauty to that, and I think you talk about it. You talk about it like an expert talks about it, really. Like, you downplay it and you say it's this, it's that, and sure, you just got a camera for Christmas, but this is my fucking point. You got a camera for Christmas, right? And that's what comes out of it. Like, come the fuck on. Like, it's unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's cool to see. I was going through my older work, and that's always been there. It's refined. It's gotten better. I've, gotten better equipment and gotten used to lighting and stuff like that. Sure. But that curiosity of the moments in between has always really been there.
And where does that come from?
Probably just being a nosy little pain in the ass. Honestly, like, I'm kind of a snoop kind of a person. Like, I like to just, sounds super creepy and stalkery, but I like just kind of be that fly on the wall and just sit on the sidelines and observe. Probably stems from like art school and having to draw people on the subway and transport, and just sitting and watching life. It's like one of the big things I learned is that you have to build a library of experiences on which you can draw from which you can draw to make meaningful work, and to capture like those little idiosyncrasies of people that you observe on the street. So I got really, I developed my skill for people watching to a fairly high degree by the time I got to Tristar.
Man, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't even know where to start with that, to be honest. Like, do you find then that you're trying to relay something from, you said there's a snoopiness, right? There's an understanding. There's a want for those candid moments, to be that fly on the wall, and you have to build a library of experience to draw from. Right. Do you find that you are drawing on your own experience when you're taking those photos, or are you merely?
I would say that because I have some experience, and it comes with a mega asterisk, because like, look at the training partners or look at the people at the gym that I train around. I have some experience in striking and jujitsu and things like that. So I kind of have a sense of what they're feeling perhaps in that moment. And I'm just like, I want to capture that. I want to capture that experience. And that's really, sorry, I forgot the question again, but.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, I think like, the feel is huge, right? Because there's, like, I talked to Rolling Shutter. I don't know if I'll just say his name. I'll talk to Steve, right? So when I talk to Steve, like, there's something when he's taking photos, for instance, for Polaris or just at Scramble Gym or whatever, he's already aware of what's coming, right? And he knows like if somebody's getting crushed by Murillo Santana's pressure passing.
Everything.
Yeah, exactly. Then somebody's like, oh, I know how that feels. Let me get a specific
Yeah.
angle. Let me show and portray a specific light, a specific,
Yeah, just a specific like ambience. And yeah, that's probably like where the illustrator side comes from. Is I think in like almost like a cinematography kind of way, or
yes,
like a sequential storytelling kind of way. Like I try to capture like what really matters in that moment. And yeah, like the feeling of being crushed by the force of nature that is Murillo.
yeah.
And to capture him, to capture the reaction and the tension of the two people in such an like intimate sort of scenario, that's my goal. And one of my big things, like my white whale, is to really capture the feeling of like wrestling against the cage. That's the hardest, because it looks like they're hugging. It's kind of, it's awful. And I want to capture the things that like fans don't see when they watch a televised fight, like this brutal, grueling feeling of like being compacted against what is essentially a cheese grater on the other side of your body, and all the thoughts that go through your head, in terms of technique, in terms of like getting that grit and just persevering through just such an awful experience. And like it's those sort of sensations and experiences that I want to capture when it comes to like cage wrestling, and that extends to the rest of the other things, the aspects of the martial arts.
I mean, I think you do get that, to be honest. Like, I think you're achieving your white whale already. Like, just to revert all the way back to the caption thing, like that's the thing that's so, I think Instagram's a weird place, right? And we'll get onto Instagram in a bit, but
yeah,
Instagram is a weird place because you have so many, so much manufacturing when it comes to imagery and captioning and use of emoticons and marketing tools and this and that and the next thing.
Yeah.
But I think one of the reasons why your work is so prominent, especially with me, I can only really speak about myself and maybe Steve, but I'll just speak about myself. Like, the reason why it's so prominent and important to me is you capture those visceral images, right? But there's this weird thing that happens in your brain when you go to your profile, is it's like, oh my God, like you're watching someone get kicked in the face. And like I come from a striking background also, so I remember what it's like to get kicked in the head, right?
Yeah.
But then in my brain, I'm like, oh, but what she said that's funny. Like, let me see what she said that's funny. Let me see. And then you go back to the shot, and there's this emotional imbalance that's built in a momentary understanding of such powerful,
right,
innate beauty of whatever it is you shot your camera at that day, and then something underneath there's like a seasoning on top, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like this little sprinkle of deranged weirdness on top of it.
But you're getting the white whale.
I hope so.
In my opinion,
I find it's a fine line. Like I have this like little inner code of ethics when I take these photos, and I think it's what it's allowed. Yeah, what's allowed me to like go to other gyms or to stay at this gym, and have the fighters trust me as much as they do. So when I have someone get kicked in the face, I really focus on commenting on the like a funny aspect of the situation, but not of the other person failing, because it is kind of a zero-sum thing, fighting, and to like mock someone else, getting just caught in a random moment, it doesn't really jive well with me. So yeah, I think that's why I say like such weird stuff and like just like weird silly things. Also because I'm just a weird silly person, and like much of MMA is like serious, like high contrast, like really gritty, like warrior, gladiator, so many lion images that I'm just images. So many lions that I just try to focus on. Yeah, like just the goofy, like the aspect of just being goofy with your friends at the gym, but also maintaining like a sense of trust.
Yeah, and I think that sense of trust and that sense of ethics is, you use the word weird and deranged and crazy and all these to describe yourself, but you're forgetting a couple of words, and those words are kind and caring and considerate and compassionate and empathetic, right? Because as you say, these are your friends. Now, in a literal sense, okay, somebody gets kicked in the head in a spar, They may
Yeah.
well have dominated that spot and just got caught once, but it just so happens
Yeah.
that you caught that camera, right? But then if that's the thing that goes on Instagram, then that fight is automatically shit because they got kicked in the head. When that's
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I don't mean to.
No, go feel free.
Yeah,
what you've got
that's
to say is probably far more important than what I've got to say, so please feel free.
So I'm just gonna compile my thoughts. Yeah, that's the thing I want to kind of, that line I want to straddle very carefully, because it is just simply a moment. And working as like a photo retoucher and then working as a photographer and seeing the different frames, because I get all the shots, right? And I get to see what happens and the context. And I try to be careful with what I present out there, because especially with the pros, this is their forward facing image, and you don't want to just like completely set a narrative that they weren't really a part of, you know. And yeah, like there's them getting punched in the face, and I have many shots of that, but then there's them like, you know, mushing someone else's face in the next second. So it doesn't tell a complete story, and I try to be fairly mindful of what I choose. And I think that's also why I choose the weird, silly stuff, because that at least you can kind of, it's safer in a way.
Of course, because as you just said, like you're essentially an incredible marketing tool, right? Because you know, people will go and look at your profile that don't know the fighters that they're looking at, right? Because there are guys there, sparring partners there, that aren't big name fighters. They're not UFC fighters. They're not Bellator fighters. They're just guys that are there grinding, and they'll come up and they'll be those guys one day. But you know, people when that fighter, when that sparring partner gets the UFC or Bellator or whatever, somebody will be like, I know that guy. Like, where do I know that guy from? And they know that guy from you.
Yeah, and that's not a first impression. I mean, I will say, like, I try to present the pros, no matter what level, in a flattering light. The amateurs, I'm a little more, not harsh, but a little, like, I'll post some sillier stuff, or maybe stuff that's less flattering. But yeah, there's still always that line. But I want to be aware, because this is an impression that is being made on fans, and I don't think it's fair when the person, you know, they didn't really, not that they didn't consent, but they didn't choose this image and be like, I'm going to put that out there.
Sure. And I think that was one question that I had, is like, do you have to check, or do you bother checking with the guys before you post anything?
Yes, I do, especially if I don't know them as well. Like we're friendly, like, but you know, we're not close friends. You know, so like many of them, they have their own lives, and so if there's something, I usually will start, especially if there's someone new at the gym. I'm like, if you don't want me to take a photo of something, let me know right away, because you know, if you're working on something secret or just like a bad round, we just, you know, and then there's some where I will send them like the photo and the caption. I'm like, can I say this? Can I show this? Because what I say to them is that you don't go to my work and just fuck with me and show all of my worst, you know, my worst illustrations and just throw it out on the internet without my knowledge. So, except for Zach, I'll just post it, whatever. Like when they're really good friends, like I'll just, you know, no holds barred. But yeah, I do try to be respectful.
Yeah, that seems like the best friendship ever. Like you just shit talk each other constantly over the internet, right? Like the worst place to get shit talked.
Yeah, like we're good enough friends where we just try to actively make each other's lives miserable in that best friends kind of way.
Yeah, it's brilliant. But I think what you just said is perfect, right? I think it's important to highlight that is that there is, you know, like you say, you're a lady that trains at the gym and you're taking photos of your friends, but there's also deep ethical mannerisms, and deep ethical mannerisms is definitely not the word. Mechanics is the word that I was looking for. Mechanics behind the decisions that you're making and the decision that you present to externally. Yeah, I think it's really important to say that. Though you talked about illustrations, like, and people don't put them over the internet. No, you put them over the internet. You show your bad illustrations.
Yeah, I tend to. I, you know, also love showing photography outtakes and just here are my abject failures. And maybe it's a defense mechanism, maybe it's just comfortable, like bravery, if you want to call it. Like I'm just like, but I think like, especially with Instagram or social media, it's important to show when you failed.
I could not agree more.
Because when it's only, you know, the finished product, you don't get a sense of the process and the time it takes to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that that's something that is unbelievably inspiring about you specifically and your Instagram account, is that, you know, there's been every type of failure in your stories at some point, whether it be professional or personal, or, you know, your physical injuries, and maybe if you want to talk about that, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
And you know the it's just, you know, there's things that, I mean, obviously I've reached out to you on some of them, but there's things that you put out there that I wouldn't even dream of having the bravery to put out there for public consumption. And there's just something that's so innately poetically beautiful about that. How do you do that?
I don't know if it's part bravery, but part stupidity, which I think is incorporated into bravery. There's
Sure,
you gotta, you know, you gotta have that little bit of like dumb and crazy in you. But I don't know. It doesn't bother me for whatever reason. Like I said, maybe it's like a defense mechanism where I trash myself before I try. But now it's kind of evolved in like, I'm deeply imperfect. Please don't hold me to some, you know, ridiculous standard that I can never keep up. And also, I'm deeply imperfect, and it's okay if you are. And, you know, we're just out here trying. And here's, you know, examples of me trying. Here's examples of me falling flat on my face. And we just kind of cope with it and we'll keep moving forward.
And I mean, I suspect, and I assume that when you do actually show a section of your reality, the negative reality to your brain, and I think what you just said about being deeply imperfect, to say it's okay if you're not, everyone's deeply imperfect. Come on, let's not get this twisted. There is deep, riveted imperfections that are grooved into the tract of every person's soul in some fashion. They may be
a beautiful way of putting it.
Thank you.
It's very poetic.
Thank you. There may be different colors that people paint them, but they're all fucking there in some fashion. Yeah. And you know, I think it's, like I said, I think it's brilliant that you have the bravery or stupidity, whatever.
Like I said, it's a mix.
To actually be open. And I hate the word hope, right? But I wish that people have been positive towards you when you have done that, right?
Yeah, they've been utterly amazing. And it really does blow me away, the just me kind of what I regard as just blathering stream of consciousness stuff, or things that I feel are important and that I will, you know, structure and put together. But just me putting just simple thoughts out there, you know, into the ether, and then having just such positivity and love come back to me, it does, like, kind of, it blows me away, and it just shows me how good people are, and how good they can be.
Yeah, and I think in a way it's kind of logical, right? Like there's something in a market of manufactured ideas, when something is given that's non-manufactured, right? Like the way that you speak, the vocabulary you have is deep and intricate and important and impressive, but it doesn't feel like your Russell Brand that's written out a paragraph and then rewritten it and rewritten it and rewritten, and then be like, yeah, cool, I'll put that one out. Like it does feel like you're just typing or you're just speaking, and it's your inner voice.
The typos. The typos alone indicate that I'm like, I am barely proofreading this thing.
Yeah, and I think that when people read that, they see, and there's something internally that sparks, right? There's an understanding that what's being presented to them is real, quote unquote, whatever the fuck that means, and they engage with it on a level that's actually themselves, because you know.
Yeah, I think for better, for worse. I mean, YouTube comments and the cancer that is that, yes. Or the amazing things I receive, you are getting what that person truly, you know, like their true response. Even if it's them being shitty, that might just be them being shitty. They just that is unfiltered shittiness, but then you also get unfiltered love, you know, oftentimes. And if you put something out there, oh, sorry, please go ahead.
No, please finish, please.
I think, yeah, if you put something out there that is honest or it's true, then people do respond. But
yeah, I think
sorry.
Honesty is better, I think. I think honesty is a better word than real. But my point about the YouTube comments, like, I'm not sure that you are getting a real person. Like, I feel like the people that take time to write something heinously mean in a YouTube comment, I don't think that what they're presenting is them. I think what they're presenting is a subversion of what they determine their reality to be.
Sure, yeah, I think you might be right. It's not like that it's like, I guess you see the real, even if they leave a shitty comment, that exposes an aspect of their personality that they want to hurt. That part is real. Like,
yeah, I think I agree.
Or that part is honest. And yeah, because you see like a lot of trolls. Like there's a famous one that was just like, so would say horrific things, and he was just like a sad person living this sad life. And you can kind of see, just like how you can see when someone's being disingenuous, you can kind of see like where the assholery is coming from. And they're like, oh, okay, I got you. I know where that is. And
yeah, it's just a lack of honesty, right?
With themselves, yeah, for sure.
Because it's not like yourself or myself haven't been sad at one point, or haven't had sad things happen to us in our life. But I can hand on heart say that I've not written a YouTube comment that's egregiously negative, right? I mean,
right.
And I can't imagine you've done that either.
Oh, you've not written one or read one?
No, I've not written one. I've definitely read one.
Just, I'm like, that's why I was like, right.
Yeah, I've not written one in my lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have it in me to be like needlessly shitty that way.
Yeah, well, not outwardly anyway.
Oh no, I'm plenty shitty, and Zach will, he'll fill you in on that. But not just like, it is like a wounded animal lashing out at everything and anything. And I just don't really conduct myself in that way, at least not anymore.
And I do feel like you've kind of brought up a brilliant point about animalism, and I feel like Instagram is that in a very, very, very interesting way, that it reduces people back to what's essentially the real dumbest core bits of their cerebral capacity, right?
Yeah, it's like the lizard brain, and they're just like food, sex, all the fight. Yeah, I think I have this really weird relationship with Instagram because it's been incredible to me. Like, it's given me so much, and let me get in touch with so many incredible people. But I do recognize that platform is a real dodgy kind of thing that is engineered to just hit those parts in your brain that just like dopamine. And just to see people get spun up that way is surprising, alarming, just like, whoa, like it's quite powerful to see like brains get hijacked in real time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I agree with that it's shocking. I agree that it's powerful. Like, sure. I just think that people forget. Like, I think we have an alienated and an exaggerated view of how intelligent we are, and how important we are, and how much in control of what we determine to be the self we are, right? Because when an app can be engineered by a couple of guys that are really good at writing code and are really good at psychology, and all of a sudden you're calling someone a cunt that you've never met in your entire life, and you're then 2 seconds later double tapping a booty pic, and then 2 seconds later you're looking at a recipe, and then 2 seconds later you're looking at an amazing caption from you. Come on.
It's like a limbic roller coaster.
Yes, it really is a limbic roller coaster with no seatbelt, zero seatbelts.
Yeah, I think people aren't aware as to, just that monkey brain. I call it like the angry, scared, hungry monkey brain that just resides. There's like this veneer of civility and intelligence on top of just pure like animal instinct in a way. And yeah, people just don't really seem to tune into that aspect of themselves. And it's things like that. I'm slightly more aware as to how susceptible I am to these sort of things, and I might not be as smart or in control of myself as I think, that I've renegotiated my relationship with Instagram, because I can feel it. Like, I'm like, I know someone else is running the show in regards to how I interact with the app, and I don't like that. And I know that my brain is really susceptible to, you know, clickbait or arguing online or other things like that, that I'm like, I'm gonna try to step back and chill out a little bit, you know, especially after 2020 and the party that was.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I've got 3 points. The first one is I can hear my dog snoring through my headphones. So if you can hear that,
amazing.
Really
no, you're good.
That's phenomenal. Bearing in mind he's nearly 9 weeks old and he snores like the windows are going to shatter. It's phenomenal.
I love him so much.
Yeah, one time we'll do a video call when he's awake and I'll show you him. You can meet him. My second point is that it's a superpower move that you've decided to renegotiate your relationship with Instagram. And my third point is actually a question, so it's not a point at all. Is one, how has that made you feel to renegotiate that thing? And second is, how do you renegotiate that thing?
At first, you know, it's like genuinely kind of like a withdrawal. You just feel that compulsion to click on the app or go there and get those little hits of dopamine that you crave. But after a while, you kind of, you know, like anyone who saw what is that social that movie? The recent one.
Yes, fuck, what's it called?
I don't know what it's called. I didn't watch it.
It's on Netflix, right?
Yeah, but people who are like, oh, I feel liberated and free. I feel a sense of that. Yeah, no, I don't feel like completely like I'm above the sheeple, but I feel like a little bit of, oh, I get to focus on painting. I get to focus on, you know, training and all these different things. And you become aware as to like how much time you spend on that damn app. And yeah, and you just like, it hits different, I guess is how I say it. Like, I'm just like, oh, it's neat. Like I get to talk to you and other lovely people. Like I get to touch base, but it doesn't, it feels like you can feel like the tentacles kind of start and you're like, no, thanks. I'm going to pass, you know? So, and how I did it was I could feel myself doing like that randomized reward thing where I'm like just pressing, you know, like, and trying to get, you know, a message or a like or something. Because I'm not impervious, you know, to them likes, but I was like, fuck this. I deleted it for a while, or deactivated it for like a good few weeks. And then I spoke to my ADHD coach actually. And she was like, make a schedule, make a time. Because, you know, there's some business component to what I do, or, you know,
of course,
networking. And so she's like, I'm like, okay, Monday and Friday, it's a free for all. You can just go ham. And I check it and I post, you know, one thing that day, check my messages and try not to scroll so much. And those are like what I've managed. And it's hard at first, and you can feel that's like, I could check it right now. But it makes it a treat. Like when you realize it becomes a chore instead of a treat, then you're like, I don't really like this. So now I actually enjoy my time on there. I'm not doom scrolling or like fighting the urge to.
That's fucking brilliant. Doom scrolling.
Yeah, I hear it. The kids use it.
The kids, Jesus.
Yeah, I'm old. But yeah, you know, I don't scroll down. I feel bad that I miss out on a lot of stuff, but I don't scroll through because then I just get my brain hijacked by someone's ridiculous post, or I end up wasting a lot of my time that I could be painting and making stuff. And to tie into the the other question was, I realized that I was spending more time on this thing than doing the things that I do to put on this platform, if that makes sense. Like I'm not taking as many photos, I'm not painting as much. And I'm like, then what's the point of me being on this thing if it's, you know, taking up 80% of my time? So kind of white knuckled it.
I mean, I think it's brilliant, and I think that, you know, people should take note, me being one of them. And actually, as soon as you said, you know, when there's things that people say and it's so plainly, unbelievably obvious, but then when somebody says it to you, you're like, ah, oh, yeah, that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
When I messaged, and obviously we were going to do this podcast a little while ago, and whatever, and when you messaged me, you were like, oh, you know, I took a bit of time off Instagram, and cool, and then you were like, I've got a schedule now, Mondays and Fridays. I was like, oh my god, that's genius. Like, why am I not doing that? That's fucking ludicrous. Because, you know, I think about my Instagram output. Really, I have no training photos at the moment because I'm not training, right? Gyms are closed. And the only thing I do is a weekly podcast that goes out on a Monday.
Mm-hmm.
What else do I need, right? Like, I don't need to be on there 5 days a week, 7 days a week, 6 hours a day, or whatever it is, right? Like, I need to post my shit and then go.
And then just get out. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I felt that way too, because I'm not taking as many photos because there's no photos to take. So I'm like, why am I on here? You know, I end up, you know, just wasting my time or getting frustrated that I'm, you know, I'm not as good at art or as, you know, XYZ person. But I'm like, the reason I'm not as good at whatever task is because I'm on this damn thing and not out there doing, you know, learning and grinding away at getting better.
I have a slightly left field theory that I'm going to put to you that's kind of interlinked, but it's a little bit of a tangent, so bear with me. So this is something that I've been thinking about for a number of years, and I've mentioned it on the podcast a few times. This is kind of market research, but let's see where we go. I believe that the primary goal of technology now has switched. It used to be an enabler to life. It used to be, you know, no longer, when it first started, you no longer have to write things on paper. You can type them in a computer and it's faster and whatever. I believe now the goal of technology is to become conscious. And I believe that the role of technology is to define apps that are addictive in nature, that's subconscious analogous, the subconscious analogous of these apps is to force you to download your conscious, or upload, if we're going technical, to upload your own consciousness into these apps so they can learn what it is to be conscious. They being an entity of the app and the global corporate whatever.
It's like Westworld.
Similar, because what I believe is going to happen, and I'll give you you know, a very brief rundown. Think about this conversation. You are what is it, 7 hours from London to Montreal on a plane, something like that, 6.5 hours, 7 hours, okay, 6. Something like that, right? Something like that. So a number of thousands of miles away, and yet we're having a relatively logical conversation using technology.
Despite me.
All right, despite both of us. This is in some way virtual, right? In some fashion it's virtual, right? Now, do you think you'd be more inclined to have this conversation if you could put a headset on? I'd put a headset on, we'd appear in the same room virtually.
Would I be more inclined? I guess so. I think so. It'd be an interesting.
Right. Your immediate reaction is yes. I think that would be more comfortable.
Yeah, it appeals to that monkey brain in me where I'm like, I want to see the person with my seeing eyeballs.
Right. But you're also well aware it's a facade, right?
Yeah. But to quote Westworld, if you can't tell the difference, does it really matter?
Right, exactly. And I've never actually seen Westworld, but I know the synopsis. But my essential core thesis or hypothesis, I guess, is I believe that sooner rather than later, the world is going to be operated in a virtual reality. If you think about what do you really, other than Tristar, in order for you to function as a human being, what do you need to leave your house for right now?
Not a whole lot, to be honest, which is why I haven't left it.
Right. Now, obviously there's lockdown and whatever, but you can be fed by staying inside your house. You can be watered, everything, right? So
yeah, I
then
got an air dye, like I don't really need much else.
Right. So it begs the question of what do you need to leave the house for? Well, if it then the world starts to become more enticing on a platform, right? Let's say Instagram, and everyone goes live on Instagram, but Instagram Live becomes a theater of live, right? And you can jump into anyone's live with your own emote or whatever it is. I don't see any reason why the world wouldn't spiral into that, right? Like, have you seen the film Ready Player One?
Yes.
Right. That, I think, is about bang on the money in terms of underlying synopsis. If life on the outside is so derailed and in the dregs, but you can create something on the inside or the internal, which is the antithesis of what you're living on the outside, which is the same for games like RuneScape, games like World of Warcraft, games like any game, right? You put your name to it. Instagram itself is that, right? We've already spoken about the manufacturing of Instagram, the manufacturing of Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all this stuff.
It's the stuff on steroids.
Exactly. So if we think about a capitalist society and a company and companies that want to make money, well, they make money by bettering things. How do you better things? You put steroids in it.
Right. And yeah, and just like with artificial intelligence being added, it's a whole new game changer. Because I mean, what you described is essentially escapism, and that's what artists for millennia have done. Writers, they're just like, out there is kind of, out there's kind of whack. I'm gonna go and retreat in my head and come up with these beautiful things. And I could see the world spiraling in, I mean, if 2020 keeps, or the rest, the next few years keep going like this, I could see it. Because it is sort of like any sort of addictive spiral is that things have to be bad. You don't have the skills to cope with X, Y, and Z, with whatever's happening out there. Now you retreat to this other thing. And that has, that's happened for a long time, but now technology is, like I said, it's on steroids, it's on some major PEDs, whatever they were feeding like the Pride guys back in the day. Like, I don't know what it is, but it is very strong and it's optimized and accelerated to like unbelievable levels.
We spoke earlier about people not being able to analyze their monkey brain. Well, I think that nobody is quite able to deal with the operating mechanics that technology is written under, right?
Yeah.
So how can we not expect technology to become an overlord of some fashion when we're playing with fire that we don't understand how to put out?
I think so. It's funny, these conversations that I listen to, and I feel like I don't have much to contribute. I'm like, yeah,
of course you do, Jesus.
No, but like I go on like Lex Friedman's Discord and he talk, like actual computer AI people, and I'm like, AI is whack, like AI is wild, guys. That's all I got. I'm like, I think so, maybe, hopefully not. But yeah, I just, sorry, I'm like trying to losing my train of thought.
No,
technology equals like crazy right now. But yeah, it is, we are playing with something. It could be dangerous. We're playing with something extremely powerful, I guess is the most even-handed way of putting, because we're doing incredible things. I mean, they put a Tesla on the moon, or they put a Tesla in space, but we're also like, doing some pretty terrible things with technology. So it's just, I remain optimistic, cautiously hopeful and optimistic, I suppose.
You're a better person than me. I mean, I'm
trying.
I think my middle name, my hidden middle name is pessimism, but I think at the root of this, what it feels like to me, the more and more that I think about it, is that humans are subconsciously developing the next evolution of what it is to be human, and that thing is called tech, or that thing is called AI.
I very well believe it. I am more of the hope that it's like an augmentation, but it is like snowballing exponentially.
Yeah.
And it's getting, and it's getting smarter and it's developing and branching out in ways that we could probably never, think of. Like, again, this is very layperson, but think of is it AlphaGo, the Netflix thing where the AI was playing, one of the most complicated, if not the most complicated game, Go, and it managed to win because it did something a human never ever would. Was that it did this thing where the margin of winning was only by like 1 point, and humans tend to maximize their chances of winning, and this shapes the decisions they make. So the prospect of technology just behaving in ways that we could never ever fathom, just because of the way our brains were evolved to behave, like, it is a pretty wild thought that I try not to think about too often. It freaks me out, I guess, but I don't know. Yeah, I wish I had more intelligent things to say on it. I'm just like,
oh, I mean, actually, because I work in tech, right? So this is one of the reasons why I have these thoughts. Is I don't work with AI, but I work with tech, and in the time that I've worked with tech, I've just seen such an exponential change and an exponential difference in what's possible and what's not possible, and what's possible with what level of resource, what variable of resource. To complete a task 6 years ago, you'd need X, but now X is divided by 15, and you can do it with Y, and it's cheaper and it's quicker, and it everything else. It's extrapolating out at a rate that's, to me, unfathomable. And
and
I was going to touch on the Go thing that you were speaking about, and that was there was another AI program that was written that had never played a game of chess before.
Was it Deep Blue?
Yes, and it was one. Sorry, it was the one after Deep Blue.
Oh, okay.
And it was turned on at 9 a.m. and by lunchtime it could beat every grandmaster in history.
Oh, not terrifying at all.
And like the grandmasters were watching them play, and they were like, I've never seen these set of moves in my life. And these are like chess historians, right? And this thing is just doing something completely different.
Yeah, it's almost alien in a way, because I think Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about biology, and it's a sample size of 1. Just because we all stem from a common ancestor, and to have technology behave in this way, it is essentially like an alien life form that is being made by us and being made by like neurotic monkeys.
And that's what, like, genuinely, that's how I feel. Like, if we think about it relatively logically, and I'm nowhere near as intelligent enough to really make the statement, but I'm going to make it, is that
hot takes. I love hot takes.
If we think about when monkeys were monkeys, right? Like, if we were monkeys, they were probably just doing shit to see what happened as well.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we showed up.
Yeah, and now I wonder if the stakes are higher. I feel like they are, because we're like, what's this thing do? And then suddenly society, social dilemma. Sorry.
Thank you. Yes. Fuck me. Thank you. That's phenomenal. Yeah. Well done.
The ADD just blurted that out. But
that's beautiful.
But now we poke and we're like, what's this thing do? And now Facebook exists. And now, like, dare I say, elections are being influenced. I don't know how to say it. Anyway, people are forming opinions on democratic things. Like, society is being shaped by, just this one person that made this thing in their college dorms. So the ripples of what we do, I feel like they're turning into tsunamis at this point.
And, you're talking about Cambridge Analytica, right?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, so
Cambridge Analytica, I might be completely off. But
Cambridge Analytica is the company that rigged, I'll say it if you don't want to say it, that rigged the US election, and probably rigged this one as well. And probably, they were involved in Brexit over here in the UK.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so essentially what happened with Cambridge Analytica is they were contacted by, so the business sponsor for Cambridge Analytica was a UK politician, and there was some conversations between Trump and one of this politician's friends, Nigel Farage, who was like a big leader in Brexit. Yeah. And obviously Trump was running. Trump's got an endless pit of money, and he basically said to Cambridge Analytica, prove that you can change an election, and we'll talk to you. So they rigged 13 elections in Africa and made the party that was like 0.0% chance of winning, they made them win, right? And then Trump was like, yeah, sound, we'll take a contract. Cheers.
I'm just like, I'm definitely like the very image of internally screaming right now. It's just like this high-pitched squealing in my head is what's happening if, you know, if that is the case with, yeah. And so we are, I don't even know if we're playing with fire anymore. We're playing with like nuclear energy at this point. Like,
yeah, well, we're just, I think my point is that we're just waiting for Hiroshima 2.0 to happen, right? But instead it's going to be somebody that deploys a bit of code rather than presses a nuclear button.
Yeah, isn't that fascinating? Like,
yeah,
and
fascinating.
I worked for a company that does AI stuff and for marketing, because our data is now the most important thing. And it's,
you got damn right.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know enough because I'm just like the designer, so I just make things look nice. But I'm just thinking of like, I guess the ethical quandary of that. I'm like, I'm helping something that is really shaping human behavior. I feel like I don't know if you see that Death Star contractor scene in Clerks. I'm all about weird movie references, but they're like, you know, there's some contractors that work on the Death Star that weren't part of the Empire. So
of course,
were they innocent?
Were they co-conspirator or not? Yeah.
Yeah, there's like, and then that scene, he's like, you know what you signed up for. And that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, I know what I signed up for.
Yeah, and I think what's in a way, what I think is really sad almost is if you think about an Elon Musk or you think about a Lex Friedman, these guys have elevated into an understanding of what their technical knowledge can do from an ethical perspective. But if you allowed them to sit alone in a room for 12 hours and just code, and you gave them a requirement, they don't care about ethics. They don't.
Yeah, I can't speak for Lex or Elon.
I mean, of course, neither can I.
I'm just
but what I know is part of my job is coding, right?
Yeah.
If somebody said to me, write me a piece of code that can delete every single mailbox,
you're
and
like, okay.
I'm like, are you sure you want to do that? And they're like, yeah, fine, just do it. I'm like, okay, that's the requirement.
And is it that it appeals to that monkey part of your brain? It's like, I want this challenge. So
it's not what's the effect of my challenge. It's, can I build the piece of code that does the task?
Yeah.
And what's even worse, I mean, this is almost Oppenheimer-esque, right? But it's like, when you see the task running successfully, you're not filled with existential dread because you've just deleted 100,000 mailboxes. No, you're like, oh, cool, it worked. That's cool.
Well, he's Oppenheimer. I think he did the quote from the Bhagavad Gita. I can't pronounce
the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah,
that one is like
exactly.
when you have become destroyer of worlds, or become that destroyer of worlds. So I think there is like a cool, I did it, and then split second later you're like, oh no. Oh no.
But it's not a split second, right? Because Oppenheimer took years developing that stuff, right?
It's true.
And this is my point, is if you give somebody, and these tech guys that are actually writing the code that develops Facebook and Instagram and all these platforms, they're in the thick of it. They're working 12 hours, 15, 16-hour days on code, and that's what they're doing because they love that, right? They're not thinking about what they're doing at that moment because they're in that focus, in that groove. They're just writing, they're just developing, they're just doing the requirement, they're doing the task. Now, maybe, as we saw in The Social Dilemma, 5 years later when they decide to leave Facebook, they're like, oh shit, what did I do?
Yeah, we welcome our new Russian overlords. I do wonder about the ethical thing and the need for oversight. I assume I don't know about, because capitalism, for whatever it's worth, it doesn't have that ethical oversight, like, whereas scientific experiments, they have an ethics committee. So like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if like a tech company has that sort of has a leash on it in that sense.
I don't think so.
Not terrifying at all.
I think that, look at the blowback that Musk got when he spoke out in the AI community, and he's like, lads, I think we should have some regulation here.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit of regulation. The AI community was like, fuck you, we're doing shit, leave us alone. And it's because like who he's speaking to are the tech guys that are like, oh, but what about if I could get this to do this? And as you've already said, on the face of it, it's brilliant. It could do brilliant things. Like, you know about CRISPR, right? You heard about CRISPR, Tanya?
Yep.
Yeah, so on the face of CRISPR, that's amazing. Imagine you could look into the cells of an embryo and say, oh, well, this is going to have cancer and we're going to get rid of cancer. The ability to do that is phenomenal, but think about the shit that could cause.
It sets quite a dangerous precedent.
Right.
Because
It
in
sets
the hands,
incredible.
like in the hands of someone's like, homosexuality, let's just, like, get that. And I mean, that is the story of our species, is that we create incredible things, incredible technology, as a means of surviving, as a means of just challenging and exploring. But then we are also constantly in danger of blowing ourselves the fuck up. So that is just beauty of the species, the best and the worst thing about it.
And I find also what's so beautiful about that is you can look at a global community and we can make that statement, but we can also make that statement about ourselves as individuals.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of, because I've been a total asshole and done stuff I'm not proud of throughout the course of my life, but then now I'm at this point where I actively choose. I'm like, I am trying to just be better and to take all the things that are who I am and use it for something that is not just entirely self-serving. And I hope we get there. I don't know. We can't get people to wear masks. I'm also kind of pessimistic in that sense. I'm like, masks are tough. So hopefully we can all, but we are a species that collaborate and do incredible things. So I think there's hope.
I mean, I think because there's 2 points to come out of that, which shows the beautiful dichotomy that you've just displayed. And that's, on one hand, you've got a literal global medical community that came together and managed to work on this virus, this disease, virus, coronavirus.
Not actually interacting with it, apparently. Like they just needed essentially the crown part of the virus, and
Right.
they just like concocted this mRNA vaccine.
Right. And that happened in 8 months. Now we can be as dubious as we want to be about, clinical trials usually take 10 to 15 years and we've developed one in 8 months, whatever. We can be as dubious as we want, right? That's fine. You're open to your own opinions. It's not a problem.
Microchips that make it so effective.
Yeah,
I'm joking.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't wait for my microchip. But it's more, as you spoke about, the collaboration, the willingness to do good, the willingness to band together in the face of global adversity just shows everything that's beautiful. And then you've got some fucking wanker on the underground that's like, make me wear a mask. Make me. You're like, oh,
yeah.
Fuck off. Come on.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think, but it's that Pareto principle of just like a small group of people that do things that benefit, that have like an 80% effect on the rest of humanity.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Oh, for the most part, that it's been great. And sometimes it's one person has done some terrible things.
Yeah. And it goes to what you said previously about regulation in the AI community, right? Is my question that I was going to ask is, okay, if we need some ethical oversight in the AI community, who does that? Who should that be?
Oh, well, after seeing Mark Zuckerberg's Senate hearing, congressional hearing, they're just like, but just like the way the questions that the people were asking, or like, in a more MMA thing, the New York board of whatever, asking the questions. Yes, that's the one. Asking these questions. I don't know if a layperson is equipped to ask the AI questions, is what I'm getting at, is because I'm just like, how do I tweet from this, conscious AI being? Like, how do I make an Instagram post?
And
can it make my caption?
Yeah, can I make a funny caption? Do I have a character?
Yeah, can I just input it? Yeah, just do it for me.
But in the same vein, you've got a bunch of people that are saying, no, I just want to do this thing. you can't make me do this thing. And then you've got some other people being like, no, there's a real problem here, can we just like band together and sort it? And it's the same with the coronavirus thing. It's the dichotomy of two worlds. It's the people that, in my opinion, are in some way, shape or form uninformed, whether that's by choice or not by choice, and there are the people that are informed that are then trying to make a change about it, right?
Yeah, and this is, you know, again harkens to this wonderful word dichotomy of humanity. You've got this terrible word choice, but like this kind of toddler mentality of like, I do what I want just to explore and see. But then that quality also, you know, lends you to takes us to the moon. It does incredible things. So it's about, I always find everything that we do, it's about tempering this and having like perhaps oversight and having just some mean of checking in with yourself, with the group, with whatever. And is this a good idea? Or like, is there a way we can kind of keep some semblance of control? And like, my brilliant like political government sort of policy is more like, try to find ways to prevent people from being assholes. Like, and not behavioral control, but like make it, actually, no, I don't know if I'm stumbling here, but just try to make sure. I'm just like, try to make sure that there's the better angels of our nature. Hopefully those prevail, and hopefully those, you know, do the thing. Sorry, I'm like, we probably should cut this. I'm like babbling, but it's to make it so those darker parts of ourselves don't completely take over and run wild. It's that level of tempering. And I think it took me a little bit to get there.
Not at all. Look, I mean, we have as long as you need to say whatever you want. Don't beat yourself up about anything. What that triggers in my brain is Jungian psychology, and the idea of balance, right? The idea that you must get in touch with the extreme darkness of yourself and the extreme lights of yourself, and then do neither, and just allow yourself to walk in the middle as much as possible, because the answer in some fashion is likely in the middle.
Yeah, you can't always like be that stalwart righteous. Sometimes you got to get you got to get in the shit and do some things that if you had a very rigid moral code that you're like, like the Batman rule or something. Sometimes you have to, like the Batman rule. If you have something that rigid, it isn't really productive. And if you completely delve into your shadow side, then, well, you've seen what happens when we just let that stuff take over. Yeah, I was reading, like, I think it's King, Warrior, Magician. A book, something like that. It talks about the archetypes and so that's like the king, the warrior, magician, those are the good, as it were. And then the flip side, like the king, is like the like little emperor kind of thing. Like there's the flip side of the warrior is, you know, kind of a really violent, aggressive person. And magician is like kind of a shyster, like a con man. And just, I've been reading about like shadow work, and just a lot of people don't really want to face that aspect of themselves because it ain't pretty. Like I was facing it today. I was just like having I realize I'm just having a tantrum because my reward for doing this task is not being spoon-fed to me. And I'm getting impatient and pissed off. And there is no reason. Like the solution is to look at it like an adult and not like a toddler. And it's about, like you said, doing neither. I don't have to be like a martyr. I don't have to be like an infant about this. So I just kind of go through that middle way and handle that ambivalence.
Yeah. Do you or have you heard of Alan Watts?
The rings a bell.
So he was and this sort of leads along our dichotomy line really well. Is he was an English philosopher, just one of the like David Attenborough-esque level of beauty in his voice, right? Like, oh my god, this guy's voice is incredible. And he spent a lot of his life studying Taoist philosophies
Okay.
and Eastern philosophies and these kinds of things, and spent a lot of time in Buddhism and whatever. And the way that he speaks about Jungian theory, now he doesn't mention Jung specifically, but in my head they fit together quite nicely in my mind map of shite that goes on in here. Is, you know, you talk about the middle. For people that are listening, I'm doing hand motions, so bear with me.
Yeah, I'm a hand talker too.
That's for
a lot of.
So if the extremes are both here and you're in the middle, and you've
Mhm.
developed a notion to be able to see both of the extremes, you've essentially just drawn the yin and yang.
Yeah.
By exploring that self. And I think, as to your point about people don't want to do that, is it's because they forget that even in the perfect lightness, there's a sprinkle, a seasoning of darkness, and in the darkness there's a seasoning of lightness, and you cannot have one without the other. But that's not popularized, right?
Yeah.
And to your
especially,
point, sorry, no, go.
Especially in like the Western world and social media, it does
Yes.
not allow for this sort of thing.
Yes, and I think that, I mean, I don't have any bearing on any Eastern culture. I have like 2 friends that are from Eastern culture, right? And you know, one of them, but the stories that I hear of their upbringing is like the infection that is the Western world proliferating into what is the Eastern world. You know, when the first time I heard about ladies bleaching themselves to look more white, I just couldn't fathom in any way, shape, or form how that was a thing or why that was a thing. And then it was explained to me, and I was like, Jesus Christ, I hate Western people. Like,
so what was their explanation?
So the explanation is a lot of American TV is really popular, and the notion of beauty from American TV is a white woman that's shaped a certain way and looks a certain way, and that is then perpetuated into the monkey brain, just like everyone else has, and overrides the more cultural norms that exist in those stratospheres of the world. And people have adopted the idea of beauty, and they've then depicted that they must take on more of that existential dread that comes from their own upbringing and decide to, you know, I don't want to use the word hatred because, you know, I can't speak of it myself, but this is how it's described to me, is take on that self-hatred and churn it out to
you internalize that sort of burden. Yeah, it's like with the skin thing, it's a little, I may be wrong, but it's a bit more complicated because it also ties into
it is.
The class system. Because I mean, I get like random Chinese ladies just like pawing at me because they're like, you're so pale. And it's also because that means I don't have to work outside, you know? So like I said, I could very well be wrong and it's purely anecdotal, but some of it is also to do with class and less with the Western influence, because they've always in Chinese history, they've really coveted just pale skin, dainty women, a very particular face shape, very particular, everything is kind of dialed in. I actually have my own theory, and it might be
hit me with it.
Bullshit. It's when it comes to like, I think I might be mispronouncing it, but like racially homogenous places, I find the beauty standards get much more refined because everyone kind of has that similar template, you know, dark hair, dark eyes, and then they get really granular about what is beautiful. Versus, actually, a good thing about the West is that there's a lot of different, especially like in the US and Canada and kind of that melting pot kind of place. They have like more diverse beauty standards. It doesn't appear so on social media as much anymore, but they seem like they accept different types a bit more. Whereas like, I don't know if you've ever seen that thing where like the Korean plastic surgery examples and you show them and it's very like same face. It's like very like pointed chin, like a lot of jaw stuff, and then the eyes are larger, and they almost look like you copy and pasted different people, and it's kind of a thing like when you have something that is like, yeah, in a homogeneous kind of sample pool, that it becomes very, very granular, and the beauty stand, like the margin of what's beautiful and what isn't is very narrow. What versus like some places where they're just a little more accepting of that beauty comes in different ways, like different formats.
Yeah, that sounds quite sad to me, and it sounds like it's fucking hard to grow up, and you know, if your facial structure doesn't fit this standard, right?
Yeah, I experienced a fair bit of it because I'm like a fairly athletic woman or a girl at the time, you know, like I was muscular and looked a certain way. And yeah, I just like with the Chinese people I was around, they were just like hard pass. They're like, no, thank you. And yeah, just being told like, if you lose weight, boys will like you, sort of thing. So it can be very hard when it's a whole thing. And then I grew up in like this small little town, and their beauty standards I didn't fit. So it was a very interesting experience where you just didn't fit like either side, as it were, and you just it definitely does weird shit to your head as you grow up in that.
Yeah, and I mean, I can only imagine because, as you say, in comparison, if I analyze my childhood, right,
Mm-hmm.
you know, there were essentially, if you were fat, you were ugly. If you weren't, you probably had a chance. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's a starkly wider bandwidth of acceptance for beauty than what you've just described. You know?
Yeah, I guess I think everyone's struggle is different, but I felt like there wasn't much wiggle room for me.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, it's just like I guess I don't fit into any of these because with like, you know, according to Chinese people, my face is, I think, like they're like, oh, it's okay, like it's average, but then the body, they're just like, no, thank you. And it is weird, just the concept of having to exist and just know that you don't measure up, or to feel that you don't measure up.
You know? Yeah, I hear that. I mean, I don't want to breach any boundaries, but do you feel like it's almost a fear thing, like to be presented with a female that's potentially more muscularly developed than you are, etc., etc.?
I do wonder. I mean, there's probably like the equating it with like a more masculine sort of thing, and then for Chinese, it's you don't want to look like you work, especially like with a certain generation. You don't want to look like you do anything. So I'm built like a communist farm girl, and they're just like, oh, honey, I'm sorry, but it's like I said, it might be it might be I wish I kind of like my internal, like how I see myself is Francis Ngannou, like exactly as him, but I get told that I am not.
I mean, I've heard that you hit like a Mack truck, so maybe you are.
I wish I did. It is fun when people accidentally call me Super Samoan instead of Super Saiyan, and I'm like, Mark Hunt and I are basically identical.
Yeah, I agree. All down to the. I mean, actually, I think probably he's carrying a few more pounds than you, but I'd say the muscular structure is about the same.
Yeah,
the hairstyle's
I think the hairstyle's the same. The accent is identical.
Yeah, and the. Yeah, Jesus Christ, super smart. That's the question I wanted to ask at the very start, but I just got caught up with actually having spoken to you. Where does Super Saiyan Magic
comes from? Okay. So it was not something. So I quit Instagram for like 6 months, and this is way back. And then I was like, okay, I started taking photos at the gym, and then the fighters were like, how do I get a hold of these training photos that you take? And I was like, okay. So I made a random account, and my two favorite things while growing up, like anime, was Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon. And I thought that they described like the dichotomy of my personality, because I can be like giggly and silly, and then also I wish I could blow up planets with just like, you know, with my powers, but like I like the really aggressive masculine combat aspect. So I just mushed the two together, because the magical girl genre is Sailor Moon. It's like the transformative, sparkly sort of thing, and the concept of the two put together made me giggle. It's like a lot of the stuff I do is like, I thought it was funny and it just made me laugh in that moment, so I did it. So I made up this name that was not meant to be used in an account that was to be followed by anyone. That's why, like, I was like, I say this because when you try to say Super Saiyan Magical Girl to like a Brazilian black belt at a gym, and like, because they're trying to find your Instagram, I'm like, let me type it. I did try to change it, and then they're like, everyone was like, no, stop it.
Yeah, no, you
Put
can't.
it back.
You can't. It's
So
like
stuck. It's like
there's
Snoop Lion.
There's pillars to history in things, and it's almost like if you change them, the entire thing will fall down. Like if Super Saiyan Magical Girl ceases to exist, some bad shit's gonna happen. That's for sure.
I don't think so. I think like, maybe, but yeah, like I tried to have more like a neutral name, like Fifth Round or something. Not that I'm, intense, but it's about like a more serious note. And everyone's like, fuck that, you're weird and silly, and we like that about you.
100%. Like I remember when I came to Tristar and I came to say hello to you for the first time, which was, Jesus Christ, that took so much. I remember walking in, seeing you, I was like, okay, I'm going to build up the courage by the end of this class to go and say hello. And it was at the very end of the class as well, the very end of the class, and you were just talking to somebody, and I like hung around the corner and staring at the ceiling, and then you finished, and I was like, shit, I'm going to say hello before I go.
Dude.
Yeah, like I didn't even know your name. I didn't know your first name.
Yeah, they just call me Super Saiyan. I'm like, hello.
Yeah.
No.
It's a perfect analogy, right? Because it came from you. It's the same as the photos. It's natural, right? It's not forced. It's not manufactured.
I can't seem to create or manufacture like an identity on social media very well. I don't know why or how. I just don't feel the need to, and I don't feel I'm capable of making this fake sort of persona. And so everything is kind of pretty unvarnished.
I mean,
sometimes it bites me in the ass, but
may I offer a theory?
Sure.
I think it's because you spoke at the start of the podcast about collecting an experience vault, right? Collecting almost a satchel of experiences, if you will. I think when you're the wearer of that satchel can weigh heavy, but it can also weigh light. And it depends on what the day is and how you wake up and how strong you're feeling. But it takes a lot of internal recognition, and it takes a lot of understanding of why you're carrying the satchel and what's in the satchel. It's then very difficult to forget that you're wearing the satchel, right? Like it becomes very difficult when you've spent the amount of time in your own head that you have, and when you spent the amount of time analyzing yourself that you have. I think it then becomes very, very difficult when you're presented with the honesty of who you are, the mishmash, the blend of cultures, of family ties, of languages, of fucking weather, of everything.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing as fucking harsh as a Montreal winter, let's be honest. Like, when
it's pretty, like I'm from prairies where I've done like -50, but there's nothing as miserable as like just that damp cold that just goes into your soul.
Yeah, but when you've been presented with those things and your soul has been arduously trudging through them, not just a Montreal winter, you're presented with essentially refinement, right? And when you've got refinement, why would you mask that refinement?
I suppose, yeah. I mean, I do like the metaphor of it being a satchel in a way, because while growing up I did have to present and hide certain aspects of myself.
Of course.
And I mean, there's some stuff I couldn't hide. I couldn't hide that I was a Chinese person in like
jacked.
a small okay, slightly jacked, but small, like a Chinese person in a racist white town. So there's some things I couldn't hide, but eventually I just got tired of hiding, and I was just like you said, it weighs too much, and it took a while, but I just said fuck it. Essentially, it's just like a fuck it, and there's a refinement, and honestly, like growing up in like IRC channels and talking and treating the internet as a place where I could actually be myself, because I mean, as dorky as it sounds, the internet saved my life because I didn't have, you know, I had a pretty rough home life. School was bad and the town was bad. So this was the one place that I could actually be me and sort of refine my personality and the aspects of myself and have them be reflected back like with encouragement. And so that did shape my attitude about how I present myself online, because it's almost like it's almost kind of like innocent. I'm like, I'm just going to be myself. And what could the problem be? You know, but I am smart enough to know to not make a YouTube channel and post on there because I am terrified of that place.
I mean, compiling thoughts, progress bar loading.
And
Hold
like
on.
I said, I'm rambling. I ramble.
I think that I don't think it's an innocence. I think you're upholding the core values of the internet.
I think, yeah, I grew up during that, like the real awesome days of the internet where it wasn't just marketing and all this stuff.
The only person that I've heard speak as beautifully of the internet in its early days as you is Edward Snowden.
I'm flattered to be even in the same sentence as that person, as Edward Snowden. Wow, like, yeah, the internet back in my day was just, it was a really fucking cool place, at least the places I went to, you know, just anime and art boards.
Yeah, and Ed said, have you read his book?
Not yet. I can put it on the list.
Yeah, read the book. Permanent Record. In the first instance, he talks about how he could be whoever he wanted on the internet.
Yeah.
And what that allowed him to be was himself. Right? Because I remember the day, similar to you, when I decided, fuck it, I'm not going to hide who I am anymore. I'm just going to be.
Nor should you. You're wonderful.
I'm this long-haired, slightly gothic, but also incredibly chavvy. Not that chavvy is a word for Montreal, but English people will understand.
I know chavvy. I don't see any Burberry
excellent.
on you, but
not anymore. But I have pictures of me in it. Don't you worry about that. You know, I accepted who I was, right? And I think that the refinement, the acceptance, there's an analogy that I have that's a bit wishy-washy, but I think you are a perfect example of it. Is think of yourself as limestone and think of life like rain. And that's that eventually you're going to have to just accept that the rain is going to wash away some of that limestone, and what's left is just what's left. And instead of trying to pile the limestone back on, you might as well just be what you are, which is a slightly raggedy, almost certainly eroded piece of limestone.
Yeah, I definitely feel plenty eroded by life's drops. But I think, no, it's a really wonderful way of putting it. And so there's a few thoughts, and the ADD is getting the better of me about capturing them. But yeah, the internet was a beautiful place where I could be myself. And part of the other thing is I have this innate tenacity where I'm like, it took me so fucking long to be myself. And it was, you know, pushed back by so many people that I'll be damned if the internet like stops me from it, you know, like it's going to be pretty hard to dissuade me from that. And upon like reflecting on the Edward Snowden, we could be anything, even if it's an avatar, you could still truly be yourself. Whereas now, like, we show our faces on social media, all over social media, but we aren't ourselves. It's kind of like it's flipped. So it is really interesting to think about when you could be anonymous and be real, or true, be yourself, or you can post your face. And I think that vulnerability makes people freak out. You know, they're just like, there's this inherent fear that they think like what I have is not acceptable, especially when you see all these other like curated lives that are all over the place in social media.
So the two things I have to offer is one, the example that Snowden gave. And the example that Snowden gave was, so he was, I don't know, 13, whatever he was, and he was knee deep in computers, right? Knee deep. He'd already stripped his own home computer apart loads of times. He knew how that thing worked, and he wanted to learn more. But when he was asking questions on these technical forums, people would because he had his birthday in his name, people wouldn't
Yeah.
answer him because he was younger.
Yeah.
So he'd create another avatar as if he was a 50-year-old man, and people would give him respect for his knowledge, right?
Yeah, it is really interesting that, yeah, just remember the days when people would treat you differently if they knew how old you were, and then how easily you could hide it.
Right. And that's the thing. And you know, those are the things of like, he was like, okay, so I can still gain knowledge, but I can be interpreted in a different way. And those things are teaching you lessons regardless.
Yeah, important lesson.
And my second point, I've completely forgotten because I got lost in Edward Snowden.
It's okay.
What
It's
did
very
you
dreamy.
just say? You just said...
We said a lot of things that
That's
I
it. That's it. You said about presenting the vulnerability.
Yeah.
So the thing that smacks me the most is struggle.
Sure.
The vulnerability, the fear of the vulnerability is a fear of struggle, right?
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a holier than thou, look at me and all my struggle. That's not it at all. But it's more because some people have just struggled too much, right? And the vulnerability comes because of the awareness that they've struggled too much and they don't want to struggle no more. But it's not having an objective set of rules that will allow you to accept the struggle and continue on the struggle whilst having a baseline level of love for yourself and normalcy and routine that keeps people sane in 2020 especially, but generally in life. And I think that vulnerability comes when, like you say, if you're spending 9 hours a day on Instagram, constantly checking yourself against people that are curating and manufacturing and having professionals like you touch up images and do this and do that and do the next thing, and they're posting it and people are saying how wonderful they are and they're getting flame emojis and yas queens all over the place. And then you look at what you've got on your Instagram feed and you've only got 15 likes, and you look at your body and it's not the same as what it looks like on there, and what you're seeing is it's struggle, right? It's not being equipped to have an understanding that the struggle that is being presented to you, one, isn't factually correct, and two, is not something that you should be comparing yourself with, and you shouldn't be compensating that thing, but instead it's having a set of guidelines outside, a stable outside, to be able to do a Tanya. That's the new coining word. Do a Tanya and actually represent the core values of what the internet was, and to do it right.
I think, yeah, and I've read like what you described as a center of self. You kind of have that, just this awareness of who you are and what you're worth, like what you're truly worth and what you have to offer, and that you are actually trying to offer this thing to the world. I think that's kind of what helps me to have a center of self. Like my identity isn't wrapped up in how I compare to, the people on Instagram. My identity is like the culmination of everything I've experienced and my reactions and the lessons I've learned and the scars I've accrued and all these things. So I think, yeah, a lot of people also that struggle that is essentially being sold to them. That's marketing. That's all these things. They're like, you need to feel bad, and you need to keep scrolling and click on these ads to not feel bad and to buy the thing, and 6-minute apps that make you feel better.
Yeah, it's a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's an intangible struggle, right?
Yeah.
Like if we think about, let's take photography, right? I know fuck all about photography.
Me
the only
too.
thing fuck off, Jesus Christ.
And sometimes I'm just like it's called chimping. You just kind of like a chimp with a rock, and you're just kind of poking at it. But anyways, continue. Sorry.
I know nothing about photography, but you speak about when you look at your work from X years ago and you look at it now, and although the core ethical representation of what you want to achieve is still present in the photos, the actual technical ability to make the photo look how you want it to look is far greater, right? So
okay, yeah.
the struggle that you've gone through has been to do the thing and compare yourself from the person that you were 5 years ago, let's say, taking photos, to the person you are now. Whereas the struggle that's being sold to you on Instagram is intangible, because the manufacturing is always going to be manufactured, and it's almost impossible for you to see behind the veil of the manufacturing to get a true comparison, right?
Yeah, like it's a struggle that wasn't given to you by yourself, which I think really fucks everything up for people. And the goalposts keep moving, and the goalposts are kind of an illusion. They're like a hologram, because
That's a much better way to put it.
No, I don't know, but this is it's a retouched photo of a person who has set everything up in a particular way. So you can't reach this just simply because it isn't real. Actually, it reminds me of this book. It's called Art and Fear. It's a fantastic book, and part of it talks about why there's this paralysis of putting something on the page, and how things in your head always look or sound or whatever are better. And it's because they describe it's because it's not real. The thing in your head doesn't exist. The second you put it on paper, it becomes manifest, and you're the one doing it. You are an imperfect creature, and you are making this thing. So it's going to be imperfect, and that's okay. And that's, I mean, perfection is boring. It's complete. There's nothing to look at, and we as a species look at contrast. We look at what's imperfect in a photo. We look at just what's different. We just look at all the little irregularities, and that is what makes it interesting. And oh yeah, and a wonderful, I'm butchering the quote in that book, is art is the struggle, or the process of art is about closing that gap of what you intended to do and what you actually did. And I found that to be about martial arts. Like the skill, the process is about what you just thought of, like what you envisioned the fight going, or what you the thing that you just thought of, the combo, the sequence, and actually implementing it. And it's about closing that gap until it's imperceptible, but it's always going to be there. And that's that little grain of sand that makes that pearl, that's that little irritant that just lets us do all the things that we do as a species.
100%. I mean, the imperfect thing, the thing that screams out to me is just Plato's theory of forms, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, where the gods split us up because we're all.
Yeah, exactly. And there's this world of perfect things, and everyone comes from a single copy of a perfect thing, but actually we're all broken, and that's what makes it interesting, and that's what makes us unique and variable. I mean, that's the same. You talk about all the irregularities in a picture. Yeah, the thing that makes a picture interesting, if it was perfect, is just be black. Right?
Yeah, just so we get smooth. That's so gothic of you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's why I've got black.
I was like gonna gray. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it would just be this flat, perfectly even wash of something, and you're like, oh, okay, and then you move on.
Exactly.
Which, I mean, I think that's what a lot of people feel on Instagram. Oh, nice, a nice, beautiful airbrushed ass. Next one, like that, you just move on. You've regarded it, you've processed it, because there's nothing to process in terms of contrast or irregularities, and then it's on to the next thing. So, which is kind of interesting, because there's a lot of this airbrush perfect thing, but what marketers and companies want more is the scroll stopper. They want you to stop and look at it, but they don't realize that it's the unvarnished, genuine, like, artwork that makes people stop and stare.
I think there's something, there's almost some subterfuge there, which is they sell the idea of something being scroll stoppingly worthy, but actually what you're doing is you're selling the idea of scrolling, trying to look for something that's scroll stoppingly worthy, but because you can't find it, you just keep scrolling.
That makes sense. It is like an addiction. It's just a hit,
right?
And then on to the next. And you want it. It's chasing the dragon, I believe. I've never done heroin. I'm not that cool.
I've never done heroin either.
Neither of us are cool enough. But
sorry.
From what I gather, it's about chasing that initial first high, and that's what this whole spiral is.
Yeah, and you know, if you think about, as you've just said, there's a manufactured picture, a varnished picture of this, that. You're like, okay, it's not that one, it's not that one, it's not that one, it's not
Yeah,
that one, it's not 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 that one.
yeah,
And you know, 2 days later, you haven't eaten or shaved or showered or anything, and you're still searching.
yeah. And we're searching for like kind of that transform. I feel like we're searching for a transformative object. I believe the therapist calls it that. It's this thing that will make us better than what we are now.
I think I agree, and I think especially now, what's happening is, oh geez, this is a big point. Life's too easy.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
So what people are looking for is this. Again, we're always back to this dichotomy, and this talks about Jungian balance, and this is just swirling around in my brain. But what's happening is that there's so little struggle. People are desperate for struggle, but struggle equals vulnerability, and vulnerability equals negativity, right?
Mm.
And negativity isn't presented outwardly because negativity equals weakness in today's world.
Yeah, that's a crazy making kind of paradigm. I was thinking, yeah, there must be not that much struggle when we pay money every month to have unarmed combat in spandex with other people.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
a cheese, but no, yeah, there isn't much struggle in this world, and I feel like I said, technology and social media it's accelerated, exacerbated this whole thing, because before you can kind of get away with it. You can kind of, technology was meant to make our lives easier,
Yes.
and it has, but now it is just kind of crippling us in a way. Like,
It feels to me, and I don't know the story too well, so please, if you know better than me, tell me, that everything goes in circles. History repeats itself, right? And they're the seven, I believe it's 7 stages of society. And one is
oh yeah,
wealth, and then the next one is like impoverished disaster, right?
oh
Well, it's like Julius Caesar's son that lost, Rome fell in a day or a week or whatever it was to the invaders. Dan Carlin is turning in his seat right now, right? Just
yeah,
like,
he's just like, good.
yeah, he's going to come to my house and shit on my head. But, you know, like, Julius Caesar's son lost Rome after Julius Caesar dedicated, and his predecessors, was it Marcus Aurelius? Fuck, I
I
don't
think
know.
so.
I think it was,
Marcus
yeah.
Aurelius, I think, instead of the son being elected or selected, or the next leader being selected, he was like, kid, you can do this. And I think it was Commodus.
Something like that. Something like
Dan
that.
Carlin, don't beat me up.
Yeah, please, Dan, please. But if you want to go on the podcast, please do. That'd be great.
Yeah, I would watch the shit out of that. We could just throw historical hot takes at him, and he could.
That'd be amazing. But
yeah,
so he loses the throne, he loses Rome, right? And then
yeah,
Rome is this desolate nothingness again.
yeah.
It feels like we're teetering on the brink of just that.
Yeah,
There's too much bounty, right? There's just and something that became alarmingly obvious is when I said there's not enough struggle. Like, people's lives are hard in some fashions. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not taking away from anyone's struggle, but I'm just saying that if you can wake up in the morning and turn a tap on and there's clean water, there's not that much fucking struggle. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I was watching kind of like Planet Earth, where like this young girl in Somalia travels for like 3 days just to get water, and I'm like, I've got it pretty easy, and it's the awareness. But I think what is really the crux of the issue is that there is struggle. Life is painful and hard in its different ways, but I feel like we aren't, as a Western society, aren't really taught to prepare for it. Like, I've been reading a lot about like rituals and rites of passage, and so you've got this last few generations of people who just don't know what to do. They lose the plot when things get hard because they just don't have the tools. And I feel like we have to look a lot harder for tools. Like, we have to pay money to roll around with people in our underwear to get a sense of struggle, of coming up short and facing just the worst aspects of yourself. Like, when you have one of those rounds, you just sit there and you're just silent, and all the shitty, like the shadow side is just all coming out, and chaos, like all the excuses is I'm tired, this person goes too hard, but ultimately, you know, and we pay to face those things, to face that shadow. You know, I work through that with quite a few rounds, and like so countless rounds of that, of just, and ultimately, you know, that thing boils down to, I feel powerless. I feel I didn't measure up to the struggle, and when you face that truth, like I couldn't do it, or I was scared, or I am scared, and I don't feel like we have rituals or rites that allow us to face these things in, I would call it like digestible formats. You know, usually it's something like a worldwide pandemic, and then we haven't built up to that. You got to build up to these sort of things, and I feel like, yeah, it's gone, and the loss of like not elder worship, but just respect, because we don't listen, we don't really follow the advice of the elders anymore. I mean, some of them just really haven't been worthy of that respect, like, you know, boomers just wrecking the environment and, you know, the government and doing all these things, but we don't have elders to guide us through and prepare and give us advice. And also, we're just in an era where even if we have these elders, what advice can they give us about technology and Instagram, like addiction? Like, this is really an unprecedented time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when you were talking about elders and respect, the first person that came to my head, and this is me being such a fucking MMA nut, but Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov is the person that came to my head.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to talk about an elder, yeah, 100% rest in peace. But not only did his son look at him as an elder, but an entire fucking region looked at him as an elder. You don't get men and women like that anymore. You're right.
Yeah, maybe in those places, like in the villages and in these harder environments, you know, that forge these incredible men and women. But I find, yeah, things are so soft that you don't have to be that durable to be considered a hard person, like a tough person anymore.
Sure.
We worship the wrong things, or not worship, we idol.
I think worship is fine.
Yeah, I just
trust yourself. Go on.
Yeah, like we worship the wrong things. You know, I call it like, you know, kayfabe existence. I guess it's a wrestling term. It's just like you fake it till you make it kind of thing. And we worship the spectacle more than the actual substance of the person and the experience anymore.
So that gives me, it kind of comes all this full circle, but you know who Dan Bilzerian is, right?
Ah, yes.
Yeah. So he's
on Instagram. It's Chujitsu. No, I'm just fucking with you. Chujitsu.
That's fucking hilarious. That's
Chujitsu
hilarious.
is Dan Bilzerian's secret Instagram. Chewy,
it really
I got
is.
you.
It definitely is. It definitely is. That's so fucking good.
He hates it.
Oh, that's so good. But yeah, Dan Bilzerian is an interesting character. If you want to think about it, look at his life, go and check his Instagram, and there's a manufactured version of his life. But he did an interview where he was talking about his life prior to being a millionaire.
Okay.
Do you know this story?
Roughly. I've seen him on Rogan. And
yeah, exactly. So he broke both of his legs and still managed to finish a 26-mile run and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, so he was doing buds in the Marines and he failed the first time because he broke both of his legs, and he ran for 3 days on 2 broken legs, and eventually his legs just gave in, and they were like, "What's wrong with you?" And he's like, "Don't know, can't stand up." And then he broke both of his femurs. So he was obviously medically discharged and wasn't allowed to do that one, and did it again. And he failed the second time, I think because his leg went again or something happened the second time.
Okay.
And then he decided, well, I can't do that, can I? I don't have functioning legs. So instead he made millions out of poker and casinos and this, that, and the next thing. But Rogan said to him, like, you live an idyllic life. And he said, I would trade it all in if I could go back and do it again. Because he said that the struggle, the work, the effort that he put in to become that fit to do buds to then fail, to become so good at poker to then make millions and lose millions and then make millions again, is way better than the life that he lives now. Right? And this speaks to, go on.
Yeah, I'm like, it sounds a lot like, I know there's some controversy with Bilzerian.
Yeah, I mean, he's a massively egregious fuck, but you know.
I can't speak on it. I'm like, it sounds like what Goggins experienced. I'm sure it's common.
Yes, it's the same story, right? Goggins would have been a better example, but the reason I use Dan
Yeah.
Bilzerian is because
because his life
on
is
Instagram
so...
he's a bit of a prick, right? Like on Instagram, let's be honest. So
he's a character on Instagram.
He's a character on Instagram. Yeah.
Great jiu-jitsu.
Amazing jiu-jitsu, actually. Great YouTube.
So, yes, really, really educational. Yeah, I find that I do wonder what it's like when you... The struggle is hard, and it is a really stupid statement. The struggle is hard. Hard things are difficult. But yeah, we wouldn't trade a lot of it, because what you glean from that experience it helps you prepare for anything. I mean, like what I went through as a kid, I'm like, this other stuff, I'm like, I'll be fine. You know, like the things that are happening now in a more... Actually, I feel that kind of similar way. Like my life is really idyllic and chill, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. So you kind of find your own healthier struggles, but like tearing my ACL, it sucked. The surgery was like, I mean, the surgery went well, but it was a really brutal recovery, but I would not trade any of that, you know. I don't think that we as a society value like a healthy struggle anymore. There's that kind of toxic view of hustle culture where they just overwork and it's all about maximizing productivity and money versus like a genuine enjoyment and being present in your life. But like a healthy struggle of just a healthy attitude towards struggle. It's a better way to put it. I don't feel like we have that anymore.
So
as a people.
This is a second theory that this basically only have two theories in life, and we're going to touch on both of them. My second one is that the way that I sum up life right now is it's gluttonous. And it's gluttonous in the sense of everything. You've just touched on a beautiful example, which is you're overworking, you're maximizing productivity. You're trying to bring those margins all the way down as much as you can, or maximize this profit or that or the next thing. It's gluttonous. It's gluttonous in the same vein to think that the inflated amount of self-importance that we place on this blink of an eye, speck of dust in the eye of time, that is what we determine our lives to be, right? In the pantheon of time, mine and your life, this conversation doesn't even register as a millisecond, right?
Right.
And yet we have people that are deriving that their very being is pivotal to the nature of the world. It's gluttonous to think that way.
It is.
Sorry. I'll just finish.
No, please continue.
My thought about struggle, my thought about life, my thought about how we adopt these things and potentially change them is, if you dedicate your life to merely adding to the Pantheon of Knowledge, and the Pantheon of Knowledge is probably useful, would be some context, is, you know, I believe that the struggle that you go through in some way can help me because we can talk about it. And maybe if one day you have children, one day I have children, I can say, oh, well, my friend Tanya did this thing and here's a lesson for you, and now you don't have to do this, or you can attack your struggle in this way because that's what she did, or vice versa. Like there's a global community.
Library of Alexandria of human experience.
Exactly. Oh, Jesus Christ, you've just changed Pantheon of Knowledge. Now it's the Library of Alexandria of human experience. Wonderful. Like there's that thing, right? And people are trying to, instead of dedicating their entire life to one thing with the view to add something to that library, instead they're trying to read the whole library.
Yeah, and they're skipping over the boring parts, as it were.
Gluttonous.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. What was your second one?
That's it.
Was it?
That's it. Yeah.
No, I think I believe like that is what is referred to like a higher purpose, like even in a non-religious sense, is that
Sure.
your being alive should contribute, like your being does contribute to this pantheon, like you are, even though you're small, you are important in that way that you contribute to this library of human experience. And you should always keep that perspective. You're like a small, beautiful thread in this big fabric.
Yes.
And yeah, people try to just get to the good parts, and then there's like this good part doesn't feel that because you didn't go through the shit to get to the good part. And
well, as we touched on earlier, you cannot have darkness without light, and vice versa, right? Like there is no way to appreciate. Like, have you read Sebastian Younger, War?
Nope, I think that's on the list too.
So
Long Master.
That's phenomenal. And these guys, basically, he's a journalist. He goes out, he follows guys who've done tours of Afghanistan and Pakistan and Iraq, and he documents how they survive there and then how they survive at home. And basically, it's just, oh man, it's absolutely amazing. But it's the euphoria that they get of having a warm shower after being in a gunfight for 3 days.
I can't
imagine. No, we can't imagine, right? We absolutely can't imagine. Because I know the euphoria of after a hard session of rolling or wrestling or whatever we're doing, of having a shower. You're like, oh my God, that's so great, right? No bullets, right? Not one.
No, we get it in we have like struggle like diet struggle.
Yeah, we do. We have struggle 0, actually.
Yeah, and it is, I think it's so crucial to maintain that perspective. Sometimes I get caught up in my own bullshit and like what was me, childhood PTSD stuff, and then like I'll check like this guy on Instagram, like Ed's Manifesto, Ed Calderon, and he shows like the stuff in the cartels and in Mexico, and I'm like, there are much harder modalities of being, and there's also much tough. Yeah, there's levels. There's harder motherfuckers out there, and I'm like, I can't fool myself. I can't delude myself into thinking that I, can even be in the same ballpark as those guys. And it's not that to render oneself insignificant. It's just to have that perspective and just to be grateful. Like, I can turn on a shower and I should be so thankful. Like, because you and I live better than the majority of royals have throughout human history.
100%. Yeah. And I think the bottom of that is acceptance, right? Like acceptance. And to your point, like I should probably add just a slightly second thing to that theory. And that thing is that you're adding to the Pantheon of Knowledge, whether you're being gluttonous or not. But for the sake of the rest of the Pantheon, for however long history continues for, be positive.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you are writing a sentence in this book of human existence. Make it a good one.
Yes.
Like, most people only get that one. Most people don't even get that whole sentence.
Yes.
So if you do, make it count. And yeah. It's very cool. Yeah.
I mean, look, I don't, there's so many things that I want to ask, but look, I think that is probably a beautiful place to leave it. Right? One, because I've stolen 2 hours of your time, and two, because I think that there's always defining moments in podcasts, at least some of them, and I think that that's probably the defining moment. So before I let you go, if you could please tell people, if they live under a rock, where to find you on various platforms that they can find you.
Oh God, I don't really have that many platforms. It's just mostly Instagram that I sporadically check. It's at SuperSaiyanMagicalGirl, and I have no idea how you're going to spell that. Super.
I'll have a
graphic. You can write it out.
Like I said, it's fine. I've got you.
And that would probably be the best one to find me. I'm usually posting weird inane comments next to incredible high-level athletes doing wonderful things. Anyway.
Well, look, what I will say is there are people that you meet virtually or non-virtually, and there's just a specific something about them that makes you believe that they are somebody that is innately good, innately special and innately kind. And I think for anyone that's interacted with you or your benign comments, it will understand the same thing. So I think that regardless of whatever struggle you have at whatever time, understand that there are people that care about you, and there are people that are looking out for you, and there are people that see through the shadows in your brain, and that the world is very fortunate to have you. So
Thank you
from
so
me,
much.
thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you.
And it's been a privilege.
All right. Cool.
All right.